She tilts her head, and the croak comes again, louder. The vibration thumps in Ren's chest. Hello, welcome. Today's story is about an 8-year-old boy named Ren Yamada. Every summer, his parents sent him to stay with his grandparents in the countryside. It was always routine, safe, quiet, and uneventful. But that year, something changed. Because out by the hedge, Ren saw something he wasn't supposed to see. A woman, too tall, too still, and too wrong. They call her Hachishakusama. And once she chooses you, you don't get that many chances to escape. So, let's get on with the story. 8-year-old Ren Yamada shares a small two-room flat in northern Tokyo with his parents. His mother works overnight shifts as a nurse, and his father handles cargo at Haneda Airport. With school now over and both parents scheduled for heavy overtime in July, they follow the usual plan, sending Ren to stay with his grandparents in the countryside, a trusted, cost-saving arrangement that gives him supervision while they work. So at 7 a.m. on a Friday, Ren's mother crouches by the door to double knot his sneakers and run through his gear one last time. Beetle mat, plastic bug box, Game Boy, phone card, and 2 onigiri packed tight in his bag. She slips a paper ticket into his hand along with a small coin purse holding 3,000 yen for emergencies. Ren board the JR line alone. He's practiced the route with his mother all week and watches the city peel away. Tall apartment blocks give way to low warehouses and finally flat stretches of rice fields. Humid air fogs the train windows in patches, and at Mito Station he transfers to a single-car local train with only 5 passengers. The conductor walks through and stamps each ticket by hand, and at every stop a brief chime sounds in place of an announcement, and Ren counts dragonflies skimming the patties to pass the time. At 10:15 a.m., Ren steps onto a small wooden platform where a lone vending machine hums and no staff are present. Grandfather Takeshi stands beside his 3-wheeled farm truck, greets Ren with a firm pat on his shoulder, no hugs, and swings the boy's backpack into the truck bed. They rumble off along a narrow dirt road. Cedar branches lean overhead and the warm air smells of fertilizer and wet grass. Ren's grandparents live in a single-story house built of dark cedar boards under a clay tile roof, tucked between a tall cryptomeria hedge on one side and wide rice paddies on the other. Grandmother Emmy meets Ren at the door, handing him a chilled bottle of barley tea and a plate piled with watermelon slices. Inside, tatami mats cover the floors and sliding doors separate the rooms. The drone of cicadas seeps through every gap. There is no air conditioning, only a few box fans that turn slowly in the heat. Most afternoons follow a set rhythm. Wren pulls weeds in the garden, then runs along the hedge, chasing beetles, while Emmy prepares dinner, steamed rice, miso soup, and a fillet of grilled mackerel sizzling over charcoal. Saturday passes easily. Wren spends the morning fishing in the irrigation canal with a bamboo pole, and the evening watching small-town fireworks burst over the paddies. By Sunday afternoon, the sky is cloudless, the air thick, and the cicadas so loud they swallow every other sound. Restless, Wren grabs his beetle net and heads outside. Around 4:30, Wren stands by the cryptomeria hedge, poking the branches with his beetle net. A hollow, wooden sound drifts over the greenery. Slow and even, as if someone is knocking inside an empty barrel. Curious, he parts two branches. Above the hedge, he spots the upper body of a woman. White summer dress, broad straw hat, skin so pale it almost shines. Her shoulders line up with the 2-meter hedge, which means she must be nearly 8 feet tall. Her face is blurry, like an out-of-focus photo. She tilts her head, and the croak comes again, louder. The vibration thumps in Wren's chest. Panic kicks in. He drops the net, sprints across the yard to the veranda, slides the glass door open, and shouts for his grandparents. Emmy wipes flour from her hands and asks what happened. Wren, still breathing hard, stammers out his description of the tall woman by the hedge. Grandfather Takeshi, hearing the panic in his voice, strides in with his jaw set. He walks straight to the veranda door and slides home a heavy bolt Wren never knew was there. Then, without a word, he moves room to room, dropping every wooden storm shutter even though it's still broad daylight. The interior dims at once and the hot air thickens, turning the house into a tense, shadow-filled box. Takeshi reaches for the landline and starts dialing. First, he calls Mr. Mori, a 70-year-old retired headmaster who lives 2 houses down. Next, he rings Mrs. Shima, 67, who runs the pickle stand at the morning market. Last, he dials Wren's aunt, Naoko, 32, in Tokyo. She drives courier runs for a graphic design firm. Wren stands nearby and hears the same words each time his grandfather repeats them, voice flat and urgent. Tall woman, white dress. Boys saw her tonight. By 6 that evening, Mr. Mori and Mrs. Shima step through the front door and Aunt Naoko joins on speakerphone from Tokyo. Wren sits cross-legged at the low dining table while Grandfather Takeshi lays out the truth in clipped, steady sentences. The spirit is called Hachishakusama, 8 feet tall, he says. She shows up every few decades and chooses a child. Once she fixes on you, if she reaches out, you disappear. Takeshi pauses, then continues. Our only defense is simple but strict. You spend one full night sealed behind salt and prayer. At sunrise, we get you far away. The farther you are, the weaker her hold. They choose the spare room, the old silkworm room, 9 tatami mat in a square. From the storeroom, Takeshi carries in a 10-kilogram bag of sea salt. Mrs. Shima fetches blank cedar strips along with a small pot of vermilion ink and a brush for writing protective characters. Mr. Mori brings down a palm-sized stone statue of Jiso from the household shrine. Takeshi also sets aside a pair of straw sandals tied together with twine. Over the speakerphone, Naoko promises that at first light, she will borrow her company's delivery van, drive straight from Tokyo, and take Ren away as soon as the night is over. By 7 p.m., the sun hangs low and the cicadas start to quiet down. Ren and Grandmother Emmy sweep the tatami in the old silkworm room and wipe the floor with a damp cloth until the dust is gone. Mr. Mori comes in next and sets out 8 bowls of salt, 1 in each corner first, then 1 each at north, south, east, and west. He measures carefully, pouring exactly 1 heaping cup into every bowl. Mrs. Shima follows, brushing bold red kanji on cedar strips: banish, seal, and pure. She pastes a strip on the door frame, another on the window sash, and the rest on the wall panels. Last, they place the palm-sized stone statue of Jiso in the exact center of the room, facing the door. Takeshi hands Ren the pair of straw sandals. Keep them in your hands all night, he says, and don't let go. Over the speaker, Naoko reviews the single rule. The only words that mean it's safe to open the door are, I have permission. Anyone who knocks without that phrase must be ignored. Grandmother Emmy sets a thermos of chilled barley tea, a flashlight, a stack of comics, and Ren's bug guidebook beside the futon. At 8 o'clock, the sliding door closes, sealing the room. Outside, the adults take turns sitting in the hallway, slowly chanting the Heart Sutra as the night begins. From 9 to 11, Ren reads his comics, fiddles with the straw sandals, nods off, then jerks awake whenever the house settles or a boat pops. Under the flashlight, the salt bowls gleam like small piles of snow, and the room smells of old cedar and sweat. At 11:55 p.m., a gentle knock taps the doorframe, followed by Grandmother Emmy's voice. Ren-chan, need the toilet? I will walk you. She doesn't say the password. Ren's heart thumps, but he stays silent. 15 minutes later, the same knock returns. Now the voice sounds deeper, the syllables drawn out. Ren-chan. And the wood flexes as if something heavy leaned against it. At 12:25 a.m., the air pressure drops so fast, Ren's ears pop. Behind the shutter, the croak crashes out. Salt grains quiver in their bowls, and the south bowl snaps in two. Ren squeezes the sandals and quietly recites multiplication tables to keep himself steady. Between 12:40 and 1:15 a.m., the attacks come in waves. Thin scratches crawl across the shoji paper but never rip through. The door rattles twice, then goes still. A voice cycles through his mother, Naoko, and even Ren's own tone, each one pleading to be let in, yet none says the password. Ren answers nothing. At 1:20 a.m., the house falls silent, the pressure lifts and the air feels normal again. But Ren doesn't trust the quiet. He sits upright, sandals clutched tight, and waits until the first faint gray of dawn seeps through. At 5:35 a.m., footsteps move down the hallway and stop outside the door. Naoko's real voice calls out, clear and steady, "Ren, I have permission." Ren answers with a shaky, "Okay," and the door slides open. Morning light spills in, revealing the damage. A bowl of salt is damp, clumped, and dull gray, and the cracked bowl in the south corner now lies in two clean pieces. Ren's shirt sticks to his back, and his hair is plastered to his forehead with sweat, but he's still clutching the straw sandals exactly as his grandfather told him. They move quickly downstairs. Grandmother Emmy pushes 3 rice bowls and 2 bottles of water into Ren's hands, while Grandfather Takeshi tapes a fresh salt packet into each of his pockets and clips another to his belt loop. Mr. Mori slips Ren's gear into the backpack and cinches it tight. Off to the side, Mrs. Shima spreads a paper map on the table, tracing a route for the van that keeps them on back roads and, if possible, away from any long tunnels. By 6:02 a.m., Naoko has the white delivery van idling outside. Ren climbs into the front seat and clicks his belt tight. Takeshi leans in and says, "Don't look back." Then the van rolls onto the dirt lane, kicking up a cloud of dust as it heads for the main road. The van barrels down a long, ruler-straight farm road. At each intersection, a convex roadside mirror flashes past, and in one of them, around 6:40 a.m., Ren catches a glimpse of a tall, white figure gliding behind the vehicle. It vanishes the moment the mirror is gone, and he says nothing. By 8:05, the fuel gauge sits on its last bar, with the next town still 30 kilometers away. So Naoko turns in at the next mini station. She tells Ren to keep his seatbelt fastened and steps out to start the pump. While she wrestles with the nozzle, the van's side mirror tilts on its own, framing the brim of a straw hat hovering above the roofline. 5 long fingers tap the passenger window, leaving a foggy print, and the familiar croak vibrates through the metal. Ren rips open a salt packet and flings a handful at the glass. The fingers snap back, and fine cracks spider across the pane where the nails touch. Hearing the sound, Naoko drops the pump handle, sprints back with a push broom, and swings hard into empty air. The bristles bend as if they've hit something solid. She abandons the refuel, jumps behind the wheel, and floors the accelerator. The hose jerks free, splashing diesel on the concrete as they tear back onto the road. They hit Nakayama Tunnel at 9 sharp, 300 meters of single-lane concrete with no shoulder. Halfway through, the radio pops to static and the croak rises inside the hiss, matching every turn of the wheels. In the rearview mirror, Ren sees a white shape hunched under the low ceiling, hat scraping sparks from the concrete. Naoko slams the throttle. The engine screams and the van bursts into the sunlight. The croak dies the instant they clear the exit. Low on fuel again, they coast into Tanaka Farm Supply at 9:20. Naoko buys 2 20-liter jerry cans, fills them, and tips both into the tank right there on the roadside while local farmers watch in silence. She pays cash and refuses a receipt. Just after 11, the Tokyo skyline finally rises ahead of them. Traffic thickens but flows and no more shadows follow. Even so, Naoko keeps every window closed tight, ignoring the heat that builds inside the van. Naoko's apartment block is a 6-story slab with steel entry doors and an intercom panel. The moment they arrive, she pours a fresh line of salt across the threshold and tapes 2 ofuda above the frame. Inside, the place smells of tatami and faces a rail yard, visible from a narrow balcony. At 3 in the afternoon, Reverend Sato shows up in travel-worn grey robes and straw sandals. He tips the charred salt from Ren's pocket onto a steel tray and studies it under a small magnifier. Every crystal is blackened at the edges. He lights incense, chants the Heart Sutra for 20 minutes, and watches the salt fade back to a normal dull grey. His verdict is blunt. The link is thin now. Stay in the city for at least a year. Do not go near that hedge. The next 3 nights pass without incident. Naoko sleeps on the floor beside Ren. The first night, no tapping, no croak. The second and third nights remain quiet, and Ren's parents pick him up, take him back to their Tokyo flat, and soon enough, summer ends and school starts again. 15 years passed. Ren was now 23, renting a single room near Shinjuku and tending bar on the night shift. In the back of his desk drawer, he kept one last emergency salt packet, creased and unopened. One July morning, his phone buzzed with news that grandfather Takeshi had died of a stroke. The funeral would be in 2 days. Ren booked the midnight highway bus, folded his black suit into a small case, added an incense envelope, and slipped the salt packet into an inside pocket. The bus rolled out of Shinjuku at 11:45 a.m. and most passengers dozed while a muted film played on the ceiling screen. At 1 a.m. they stopped at Koriyama Rest Area. Ren stayed in his seat and stared through the window at the line of vending machines. Fluorescent light threw mirror images across the glass, and in one reflection he saw a straw hat rising far above the people outside. A faint vibrated under the machine's hum. He tightened his grip on the salt but did not leave the bus. He reached the farmhouse at 4:50 a.m. A white funeral tent stood in the yard. Incense drifted in the damp air, and the hedge looked taller and thicker than before. When the service ended later that morning, Ren walked alone to the spot where he had first hunted beetles. Fog rolled off the paddies. Inside the grey curtain, a tall shape formed. White hat, straight body, blank face. The croak came again, low and solid. Ren tore open the salt packet and hurled every grain through the gap in the hedge. The silhouette wavered, broke apart like smoke, and the fog thinned as the sun touched the rice plants. Behind him, Grandmother Emmy called out, using Naoko's old passphrase, "Ren, I have permission." He turned away from the hedge and walked toward his family and the bright morning light, leaving the empty foil packet in his pocket as a reminder. If he ever heard that croak again, he would throw the salt and keep moving toward the living. The end. I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time, hasta luego. Bye.